Alright, Galen, so in Tokyo Mirage Sessions, the characters attack using medieval weapons and also song and dance. If you were in this game, what medieval weapon would you use and what song and dance would you use?
I would obviously use the Boogie Woogie Blade.
Oh my god.
And I believe my dance would speak for itself.
What kind of dancing would you do?
It would involve a lot of spinning, a lot of hip shaking, and a little bit of flailing around, because that pretty much sums up my dancing.
Galen, if you spin around too much, you fall down. Your center of gravity is too high above the ground. You're like 9 feet tall.
And that's where the flailing part comes in.
And then the Boogie Woogie Blade, can you explain this? What is this?
It is a blade that has a disco ball on the end of it, on the hilt. And then when you are dancing with it, you do the stereotypical disco Stayin' Alive dance, except you're swinging the blade in that motion.
Your hand is on the blade?
Yeah, it'd be incredibly predictable. It wouldn't work at all.
You would not be in my active party, I'll tell you what. Hello, my coffee-flavored Gooigis. Friends, thank you for joining us today on the Nintendo Everything Podcast. This is episode 59. My name is Oni Dino, and with me, I have the rejected character design for the main character of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. He was showing a little too much leg. It's Galen.
The original design was actually just all leg. It left nothing to the imagination.
It was one large leg?
It was just one large leg.
Like a Christmas story?
Yeah, except a lot more hair.
Oh, fudge. We must move on. So, Galen, this is the end of the year, not our last episode of the year, though.
Not the end of the year, yo.
Not the end of the year, yo. But we are doing a reflective look in this episode on the year 2019, just like literally everybody else on the internet.
Mm-hmm. That seems to be the trend right now.
But instead of being like, it's the end of the decade, it's the end of the year, we're going to look back at everything about the year, the decade, or like this. Oh my god, so exhausting, way too much work. Let's just talk about like some of the stuff that we talked about earlier in the year, and we are going to talk about our predictions, what we got right, what we got wrong, and just in general make fun of ourselves.
Yeah. I'm always down for making fun of ourselves.
And I have a feeling there's a lot to make fun of when it comes to Galen. So next week's episode is going to be our own Oni, Dino, and Galen awards show, where we give out awards to specific categories of games that came out this year. So do stay tuned for that. We're already planning for it. It's going to be high production value. Please set your expectations very low.
Yep. I'm commissioning a bunch of Goni trophies right now to hand out to all of these game companies.
Oh,
and
don't
I think it's
call
gonna be
it
really
that. Good. No.
What's the alternative? Olins?
No. We're not like a celebrity like couple. We don't have to combine our names into one portmanteau. So stay tuned for that next week. We'll come up with a name by then. Maybe we won't.
I personally am still down for the name Goni. Like, I think it just rolls off the tongue.
You're going to be a Goni in a minute.
I would love to. I would be honored to receive a Goni.
This is becoming like a sex weirdo thing. Anyway, this is the last episode before Christmas, so... And I just realized that right before we started, so I just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody who celebrates it all around the world.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, because we have so many listeners all around the globe, and I think that that's just such a magical thing that occasionally I reflect on and freak out about, because I'm very appreciative that people support us, and I hope that we can bring smiles to your day every week. Or whatever the hell I'm trying to say. I don't know. I'm going to move on because I trip over my words like this. I'm not good at taking compliments or...
Oni, I am podcast obligated to ask you, what are your holiday plans?
Oh, I don't know. Hopefully nothing.
Yeah?
I hate the holidays.
The holidays are right. I don't know. This year I've been like exceptionally in the mood of the season.
Ugh.
I don't know why.
Well, you'll have twice as much spirit, which will cover me. Great. Moving on.
Yes. Gotcha.
So you can spread the joy of giving, or whatever it is people like to celebrate, by giving us a review or a subscribe or a like or whatever the hell you have to do on your podcast listening platform for us. We really appreciate reviews because it helps to get us recommended through algorithm gods, and we are so appreciative of everybody who is already recommending us and doing all that junk. Thank you so much, because without you guys, we don't exist.
Absolutely. I mean, otherwise we'd just be talking into a box.
Hey, it's the Adventure Log. Let's talk about video games we've been playing this week. If you want to chat with me about video games, come follow me on Twitter. Message me on Twitter at Oni_Dino. I also have an Instagram, Oni__Dino. And then sometimes I play a video game on the YouTube. That channel is called Game Married. Gayme Married. I play video games with my husband, Cliff. Galen, where do you do the video game talker?
I talk about video games and other commentaries like that on Twitter.
This is
embarrassing. You can find me at Mobius087. And if you want a more in-depth look at my personal life, you can also find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is true_Mobius.
You had a picture, not a picture, you had a, what's the Instagram thing? A story?
The story, yeah.
Where you were like zooming in on an omelet, and I was like, great, this looks like, I can't even see the omelet because you put a filter over it.
The stupid filter, yeah.
And then you went right over to your wife's face, and I was like, oh, I love her.
My wife is freaking amazing and adorable. That omelet that she made me was like, this came completely out of the blue, and it was like Italian seasoning, and it was like a 3-cheese Italian omelet, and it was so good.
I'm not going to reprimand you for talking about your omelet in the Adventure Log segment because your wife made it for you, and she is a very nice lady.
She is adorable, and I love her.
So video games, what's the video game? They're okay. I've played one.
Vidayo Game.
With protagonists. So this week I have been playing a little bit more of SaGa Scarlet Grace Ambitions, which I was playing last week. If any of our listeners are curious, please listen to last week where I'll have talked about this game extensively there. I don't have too much more to say about the game, just more of hammering home the message of what I was saying last week, where it is definitely an express RPG, JRPG. And that is both positive and negative. I am loving the quick pace of everything, but I wish that there was more meaty story. I have a feeling it's going to be coming a little bit later because it's setting up some stuff. So I have a feeling it's going to be coming later, but I don't know how much later because I played some more this week and still very light on the story.
Is the story just more trying to world build right now, or is it there's definitely a lull in what you're trying to do?
No, there's world building. My characters are just kind of going from point A to point B to point C, and I don't know, it's very standard kind of stuff,
Okay. Well, and you know how, some games move everything along and move your character along, and you're driven by the actual story and the plot of what's happening to the character.
Oh yeah, not this.
And then you sometimes just come to those towns that it's okay, this is the town I'm in, I can explore it if I want to, or I can skip this to move on to the next bit.
Yeah, it's definitely not that, because I very much like those JRPGs. I think I prefer those kinds much more, where the story is what's driving me through and I can't wait to get to the next town to see what's coming next, that kind of thing. The story is so light here. There is no exploring towns, no exploring dungeons. Everything is just like I said to you, it feels like kind of tabletop from time to time because you're moving from point to point, and the world map is like a pop-up book. It's like a great visual. It looks awesome. And it adds to what the game is trying to do with you go to a mine and then you engage in battle and then that's it. Like, you don't go into a mine. You don't explore the world or anything. I wish there was that for my own sake, because I love looking at my environments. I love environmental storytelling, but none of that is in this. And, that's both positive and negative. It does work in its favor for what it is trying to do.
It's definitely a distinctive taste of RPG, which some people like it, some people don't.
Yeah. And I will say that though I prefer a much more story-driven and much more exploration-heavy JRPG, this one, because of its battle system, is just totally hooking me. I think yesterday I played like 2, almost 3 hours where all I was doing was just battling because it was fun, and I was gaining more materials so I could smith more items and get a little bit stronger, and it was just so satisfying. I didn't make a bit of progress.
Yeah, you were saying on the episode last week that it had a really kind of unique battle system. Has it been holding your attention up until now?
Absolutely. It's gotten better and better because I'm understanding some of the different elements involved in battle, like performing counterattacks, performing interrupts, setting up my characters in this way or that way, switching up my weapons and my skill learning new magic spells. The more you learn about the battle system, the better it gets for you. At first, there's a lot of unknowns, and you're kind of, diving headfirst into stuff. And it never was frustrating in that regard, but it was just well, is this happening the way that I think it is? And then you eventually learn, oh, yes, it was, or no, it wasn't. And now I have all of my toys right where I want them in my sandbox, and I know how to move them around.
Yeah. No, I definitely know what that's like.
Yeah, it's going really well, and I really like this game, and I think that people who are interested in JRPGs and who are particularly interested in puzzle JRPGs, not in the Zelda puzzle solving style, but in the battle sense, like Baten Kaitos or something, where literally every turn is different and you have to really think about your battles, and they're a little bit slower paced than a typical JRPG, which is already a bit slower paced. People like that will really enjoy this game.
Good.
In addition to that puzzle solving portion of it, before you get into normal battles, there's 3 different optional rewards that you can get for battle, which are honestly crucial in obtaining materials and then leveling up your armor and your weapons. Those optional kind of objectives are where you really put in a lot of your puzzle solving nature. Okay, so I need to counterattack, so I need to have somebody who has a counterattack skill, but this skill only counterattacks piercing attacks, and this enemy does bash attacks, so I have to get somebody who does counterattacks of bash attacks. And there's just all of these little things, checking it off of a list, and once you can really do all of it, it feels super satisfying. Some people not into that, so that distinction needs to be made. For me, I am so about a list and checking it and just dotting all of my T's and crossing my I's. Why did I say it backwards? I'm sorry.
Nope, that sounds about right.
I'm very tired this episode. I really need to apologize. I should have apologized in the very beginning. I don't know what's going on with my energy. I might be getting sick. I don't know, but this is a weird one for sure. Anyway, going on with the visuals still, I did want to mention something that I didn't bring up last week, and that's how much of this game is reminding me of Final Fantasy Tactics, which is big old props in my category, whatever I'm trying to say. The font that the game uses is very Final Fantasy Tactics-like. The opening of the game is even a bit evocative of Final Fantasy Tactics. They use an opera song in the beginning, which is different than Final Fantasy Tactics, but the way the graphics move and the way that it fades in, fades out, tells a story, it's very much like the PlayStation or PSP game.
It's very reminiscent of it.
Yeah, totally, which is great. It makes me feel very good. It feels super fantastical, feels like a lived-in story or world.
Makes you just want to pick up a couple of rocks and throw them at your friends for some hours.
For some JP points. Wait.
JP points?
Oh no, that's like saying ATM machine. That was redundant. But anyway, to the game's credit, because of those impressions that I'm getting, that's why I'm no, tell me a meatier story. Let me live with my characters. I don't know who my party members are. Let me breathe with them. I want to have a story told, you know?
Okay.
So I guess it's good that the game wants me, or leaves me wanting more, but...
Yeah, like that's
I guess.
I feel like that's a little bit of a careful road to tread on, because if you leave the player wanting more and you do that frequently enough, they might just become disinterested in it and want to go and get their fix somewhere else.
Yeah. And honestly, if the battle system wasn't as good as it is, if it was just a standard JRPG battle system, I'd be like, I'd have already put the game down, to be honest, because there is no story driving me through.
Like, I feel like a good story leaves you hungry for more after you like have some and you get that flavor in your mouth and you're just like,
why this euphemism? Simile.
I just had this like really tasty dinner and it's still like in my mouth and I'm just like no. So
gross.
Anyway,
Gross. Don't lie, you're into vor.
No.
You did this to yourself.
No.
So anyway, it's going good. Gonna keep playing it because it's fun. It's relaxing also to play in bed, like at the end of the night, which is a big plus for me. I need games that are super active, like Astral Chain, and then I need a game like this that I can just lay in bed at night, play some matches. Relaxing.
It would be okay if you fall asleep during it.
I do sometimes.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not a commentary on the game itself. It's just, it puts you into that mindset of this is something that I can do to kind of like alleviate all the other thoughts in my head.
Oh, absolutely. Because like, Lord knows I'm not falling asleep on my own. Like, what am I going to lay there with my own thoughts? That's the loudest of all. I can't get to bed.
Yeah.
Laying there with my own thoughts is like bringing my own like embarrassing nightmare to life so I can be miserable. So speaking of miserable, Galen, why don't you tell me a bit about Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night?
Odd segue, because I am totally not miserable playing this game.
It could have been anything.
Yeah, that's true. No, I've gotten a little bit more time on Bloodstained, and I'm really enjoying the game. I've gotten past the tutorial bit. I've gotten off the ship. I'm going through the castle. It is everything that I wanted this game to be and then some.
Really?
Yeah, because, I mean, I have not played a Symphony of the Night inspired Castlevania game in quite some time.
Oh, they're a dime a dozen, though. I'm surprised.
I know. And I feel like I've kind of purposefully stayed away from some of those because I feel like they're so easy to get your hands on. But this one is very, very well done. And one of the things that surprised me the most is like the customization aspect of it, because I didn't see that coming whatsoever. Every bit of equipment that you put onto your character actually changes the aesthetic look of your character.
I love that.
Whether you're putting on different dresses, which will increase your defense, or different scarves, or even the accessories. Like I'm wearing, I found these pair of like elf ears, and they like increase your intelligence, and you put them on, and her character actually puts on elf ears, even in like cutscenes.
That's great.
Right now, my character is wearing a pirate hat and a masquerade mask now. And that's not even counting like when you find the most amazing killer barber in the game and I find out that, oh my god, I can change the hairstyle and the hair color as well, and there are a number of different options. And it also is one of those games where you have to go around and you have to unlock your cosmetics. Like, you have to unlock different hairstyles, which just encourages you to want to go further into the castle and explore more and more. It's a dangerous gameplay loop because I'm having a hard time putting it down.
Wow, that's great. I don't hear you having that kind of an experience with a game very often, so I'm surprised.
Yeah. No, it's and that's just purely from the cosmetic sense. When it comes to how you're actually playing the game, it very satisfying. There are a number of different weapon types, and you've talked about Chasm before in the past, and it's very similar. Like, You've got your two-handed heavy weapons, which are very slow but have a good range to them, and they have a lot of oomph to their attacks. But you also have, like, you actually have revolvers and, blunderbusses and rifles in the game, and that you can actually craft ammo that you can go ahead and use in the gun. But they're really rare, but they're also really powerful, and they do really cool stuff. There's also, you can just not equip anything and just go kung fu and just running around with kicks and combos. And that's the other thing that really surprised me. Like, as you're going around the castle, you can read at any of the bookshelves that are in there, and sometimes you find combos for your weapons.
I love that. I love little deep in the world kind of explanations like that.
Yeah, and it's like quarter roll forward and attack when you have like some karate shoes equipped, and all of a sudden you basically do like the Chung-Li like rapid fire kick thing. I forget what the move's actually called.
Her 100 kick?
Yeah, so like a mini version of that.
Hyakuretsu-kyaku.
Yeah, that's the one.
Lightning kick, I think, is what they called it in English.
Mm-hmm. If you equip a spear and then you find the skill, you can do the same button input, and she like spins her spear forward and it actually blocks projectile attacks. So it really makes every weapon that you are playing with unique.
That's great. That's great. Are you dying a bunch?
Not as much. There is a little bit of a learning curve here because your character does move very slowly. And I think I made commentary on this last time I talked about it. But I wish your character would be a little bit faster, but it kind of works with the entire setting. Like, it's very much a game of precision and spacing between where you're standing and where your enemy is standing.
Yeah. That sounds a lot like Symphony of the Night or even classic Castlevania, because like your special attacks or whatever you had that you would use, like your axe would have an arc to it, or your whip would be straight out, or your holy water, you throw it to the ground kind of close to you, but then it stays there and it burns for a minute.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, everything that I'm finding in this game, I'm finding more and more bits to just become more entranced by, in a way. And it's just all wrapped up in a bow with the characters that they actually have in here. Like, I have not seen a single character or been introduced to a single character so far that I have, like, rolled my eyes at.
Is that a good or a bad?
No, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
Okay.
Like, in your opening area, you're going through the town that just got attacked by demons on the offset of the castle that you're exploring. And there's this random peasant woman who survived the demon onslaught, and she's taken shelter. And you find out that she is handing out quests, and she's vengeful, and she just wants you to kill a bunch of monsters, and then she'll give you items for it, kind of like a bounty board-esque thing. But every time you talk to her, like when she gives you the quest, she's like, "This is for Simon the Butcher. He died in his home. Kill those monsters dead." And you can feel like the malice and just like the vindictive rage in the line delivery itself. And it totally did not need to be there. I mean, this is literally a random peasant woman NPC. And
that's the Kickstarter goals.
Yeah. it's so good. And they give all of these characters so much flavor, even the small bit ones. When I was going through the castle, I got into a hidden area under a staircase, and there was a peasant who was collapsed up against the wall. You go up to him and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm so scared. I can't even move. You look pretty scary too. What are those inks markings you have all over your body?" Because she's got like tattoos on her chest and on her legs and her thighs. And she's like, "Oh, it's because according to the story, they're just like part of like the magic spell ritual or whatever that she was placed under that gave her these abilities."
Of the night, Galen. Of the night.
Which she goes, "Oh, yeah, it's her latest craze over in Paris." And the guy goes, "Oh, Paris. I've never been to Spain before. I've always wanted to go. And it's just like...
Is he American?
No, he was like... You're kind of like traditional like Cockney accent to it. But you can start talking to this guy more and more, and you definitely get a feeling like, yeah, this guy is literally just like a village idiot who stumbled into this area.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Everywhere I go. And then the only other character I want to talk about was Todd. And Todd? Yeah.
What?
So...
In Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, allow me to talk about Todd.
Yep. So
that is totally a Kickstarter goal name for sure.
So you're going through there, and there's these enemy types called killer barbers, and they're these slender-looking demon guys who have these giant shears on their hands, and whenever they see you, they do slashing attacks on them.
Edward.
Yeah, kinda. Think more Clockwork Tower than Edward Scissorhands.
Clock Tower.
Clock Tower, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, actually. I'm doing a voice. I'm doing the internet guy voice.
Yeah. So you go into this room and you see one of these. The enemy type is literally named Killer Barber, and you see one of them there, and it goes into this cutscene. It's like, oh, a demon. He's like, no, wait. I'm a good guy. I'm not that kind of demon. What are you talking about? No. I'm a good Killer Barber, and it's just like this awkward moment of, wait, what are you talking about? He's like, listen, my name's Todd. I used to be a human. I got cursed when I picked up these scissors. And your main character is like, well, why don't you put them down? And his response is literally, if I could do that, it wouldn't be a curse. Duh.
That's the kind of writing that I hate.
But it's played off so well.
I'm very glad you are enjoying it. That is definitely the kind of humor that you like, but it is also the kind of humor that makes me cringe and I hate.
And it turns out that this is literally the character that you go to for all of your customization, like changing your haircut. His thing is that he's been cursed that he has to give 666 different haircuts in order to have the curse broken from him. And he'll just give you haircuts for free.
Oh, they're free. You don't have to give him anything?
No, I mean, he has like one other hairstyle from the very beginning, and then you can change like the color of your hair color, your skin color, your eye color, colors of your clothes. But as you talk to him, you discover more hairstyles in the castle, and then you can bring it to him and then unlock those extra hairstyles.
That's great. Sounds like you're getting on like really well with this.
I'm having so much fun with this game. I cannot wait to play more of it. Also, they have some characters that are definitely just an anime. Like
anime?
An anime. Like there's this character named Zangetsu who is literally an edgelord samurai sword wielding just badass mofo. And you get into this huge fight, and it's very traditional trope of, oh, I've been hired to kill all demons regardless of what their actual intentions are. And he's like working with the church that you're also partnered up with, and he just has like edgelord anime stereotype written all over him, and then he like disappears into the night.
Is that a reference to that Bleach character?
Probably.
Huh. So then, in addition to this, I just wanted to mention the Talos principle on Nintendo Switch.
This is the one that they recently were talking about in the latest Nindy Direct, right?
Yeah. It dropped right away during the Direct, and we talked about it last week, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to play this game.
Gotta get those shadow drops. So, how's the game?
Oh my god, embarrassing.
The game is embarrassing? Or I am?
No, you, Galen. Always you. I'm of two minds about this. So, before I get into that, I want to say that the Talos Principle, what is this? It is a puzzle game. It's been out for a while. It's now on the Nintendo Switch. It came out, I think, initially on PC or something like that, and then it sort of like trickled its way onto other platforms, such as PS4, Xbox One, This is a puzzle video game that you can play in either first person or third person, and it's created by a Croatian developer called Crow Team, and then published by Devolver Digital. And I just want to mention that because I don't know, this is the most American thing, but like forever ago I had ancestors that came from Croatia, and so like, oh cool, Croatia. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I've of course always wanted to visit the country and visit so many other Slavic countries that are in the area, but just so surprised. You don't hear about Croatia very often, you know?
Yeah.
So, this game is very much narrative-based puzzles, and they're logic puzzles, not unlike something that you would find in a Zelda game. So if you're into Zelda puzzles, you'll kind of get a feel for this. It's not like, so far, any like push block puzzles.
Okay.
And there's a lot of like manipulating this or that, moving around an item that controls something, turning off a barrier, removing a hazard, an enemy. That way you can get to your goal and get these little artifacts, and then you use the artifacts to progress in the game. I just got to like, I think the second area, so I'm out of like the main tutorial area. Gameplay wise, it is very fun and I'm enjoying it, and I want to like this game a lot. However,
yeah, I'm sensing a butt here.
Yeah, a big old butt like Pee Wee Herman says.
It's you. I would expect there to be a butt.
This game does not perform particularly well on the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not awful. It really isn't. So like when you go into the options menu, which I always do before I even start a game, I look at the options menu. There's tons of accessibility options. You can switch this game for left-handed people. There's a bajillion different graphic options. You can have this display in different things like sepia tone, black and white, not bloom, but like a vivid thing, which adds a lot of bloom and stuff. There's so many different options, which I thought was so great. And, you know, it makes me think of like a PC game because, of course, there's lots of graphic options on a PC.
Okay.
And I like to see that kind of thing in modern gaming on consoles. Warframe, in particular, was really big with having tons of accessibility options on its Switch port. Lots of customization there. Love it to death. So I have to highlight that.
Same thing with Deus Ex Machina, right?
Deus Ex Machina?
Yeah, didn't it have a bunch of customization options too? Or am I thinking of the UI interface?
Are you thinking of Daemon Ex Machina?
Yes.
Yes, it did. It did. Fake gamer.
The past couple of weeks, I've just been terrible at remembering names of games.
No excuses. Just you. This is your personality.
Yeah, that's just me.
So anyway, I have to shout that out because I always
appreciate.
Yeah, appreciate, give credit where credit's due on that. You can even change this game for one of my favorite options, for performance or for visuals. And I very much love that.
Oh, okay.
However, playing this game in TV mode, whether in performance mode or in visual mode, like graphics mode.
So like giving it the best chance that it can.
Yeah, playing it in both, just trying out a whole bunch of different stuff. It kind of gave me a headache after long periods of play. I don't know if that was just that session for whatever reason, or if there's something going on. Like, it's definitely an uncapped frame rate, so sometimes it, goes down, sometimes it goes way up. I have a feeling there's like a frame pacing issue with this game, like a bad frame pacing issue.
Okay.
On handheld, which I played less of, I didn't have that so much, but the TV mode I definitely had that problem with. I don't know exactly what it is. All I can really say is like how I felt after playing, an extended session.
Yeah. So would the frame rate like drop to severely noticeable levels?
It doesn't drop down like crazy low or something. It's just that it jumps between like 60 and 40 and 25. You know what I mean? And so
okay.
It goes from all over the place. And if there's not a lot of things that it's rendering on the screen, then this frame rate goes up to 60 and it looks great and smooth and wonderful. But then you're, looking around your environment, you're moving things around, and it's, I don't know, headache inducing is really the only way that I could say it. For me, what I ended up doing, and then this seemed to mitigate this, I need to play some more of it, but I turned up the look sensitivity, then turned off the look acceleration, and then turned on performance mode. And that seemed to give me the best result. That was kind of your mileage may vary, of course, but that's maybe if somebody else is also having this issue, then, try those 3 options.
Odd. Okay.
Yeah. I am going to wait for a patch on this game. Hopefully they will improve the performance on it because there is good stuff here. I don't think it would have been re-released on so many different things, so many different platforms, had so many different DLC things added to it, the Road of Gehenna.
Yeah.
There's good stuff here and I really want to keep doing it. It's a really engaging puzzle game that doesn't make me feel like I'm constantly stuck or something so far. It's a really good reward system, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully the performance gets a little bit more stable. Like even if it just like runs at a constant, stable 30 with no frame pacing issues. I don't know. I'm pulling for this game. I believe in it. I believe in my Croatian developer. I'm American. What the? So we'll see. Holding out for it.
Yeah. I am hoping to hear more about it.
Same.
From what you're saying, it does sound entertaining.
Yeah, very Zelda feel to these logic puzzles.
Do.
Dap!
Yeah!
So just before we talk about the year in review, let's talk about the one bit of news that I wanted to talk about. That's the Luigi's Mansion 3 DLC. This completely ran by me. Apparently they announced that there would be DLC plans earlier in the year or something, but now we're finally seeing what it is.
Yeah.
So Nintendo's planning 2 different parts of the Luigi's Mansion 3 DLC. It is a multiplayer DLC. The first part is going to come out April 30th, so quite a bit away, and then the second part is July 31st.
Even further away.
Yeah, well, what? Anyway, pricing is $10 for the full set. So the DLC is going to include 3 new minigames for Scream Park mode, which is the multiplayer mode. And then 3 new outfits for Luigi. And then you get some new themes for the ghosts and stuff. Like, I don't know, there's a bunch of like extra stuff that comes with it. You also get something called a Polterpup Light. Flashlight Type P. Does the Polterpup urinate on something? I don't understand what this is.
Yeah, it's from what I can tell, it's a flashlight, but it's replaced with the image of Polterpup on it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, Galen, why don't you tell me about these costumes?
Have you not seen them yet?
I think I saw them in passing. I don't care.
Fake gamer. Yeah, the costumes are actually, they look pretty neat, and they're very, very different than what we've seen recently. One of them is him in a suit of armor, but he's got like a little blue tunic on, so it is definitely detailed. The other one is him, and he's dressed up like a mummy, but he still has his hat popping up on top of that.
Ha 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 ha.
And his third one is my favorite. He is in a disco jumpsuit complete with a pompadour hairstyle.
Ah, so he can use the Boogie Woogie Geist.
He's going to be staying alive.
Oh, shut up with that. The bottom barrel of jokes. It doesn't even qualify as a joke. So I wanted to say, though, that, like, cool, it's getting DLC. I'm surprised it's getting paid DLC because other Mario titles have not received paid DLC that I can think of besides, like, Mario Kart. Mario Odyssey got free DLC. Mario Maker got free DLC. Mario Party got nothing, which is really weird. We talked about that before. But this is getting paid DLC, which is weird. And then also it's multiplayer paid DLC. And is this going to be, like, also online?
That one I don't necessarily know. I assume
Neither
that
do
it
I. I
would
haven't
be.
played the Scream Park mode, so I don't know if it's online or just local.
Yeah. Well, and it does make sense to kind of include those costumes on there because originally you just had, here are your 4 color costumes of Luigi and your 4 colors of Gooigi. Like, it's really nice to see a little bit of variety kind of thrown in here. Now that I think about it, I actually don't think there's any place where you could put those costumes into the game if you're going on solo campaign. Like, it would be kind of fun to do so, but I can't think of like... Actually, no, I correct myself. I can't think of like 1 or 2 floors that it would make sense to have some sort of like a costume shop in there.
Okay. Yeah, and then there's going to be some more Scream Park and Scare Scraper modes, which is like minigame stuff and multiplayer stuff. This is all cool, but I'm kind of surprised that this is what they're doing for the DLC because I feel like the audience for this is very narrow versus, I don't know, doing some additional story content. And especially if this is going to be online and then only the people that purchased it can play with each other online, that is a very small pool of people that can play this mode, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's what it's going to be doing. I haven't looked into this too much because I haven't even gotten to that in the game itself. But, I mean, that's why typically multiplayer stuff or online stuff is free DLC and then they sell something else some other way. And I'm glad, I'm glad this isn't microtransactions or whatever, but just kind of surprising. I don't know how much money they're going to make from this. I also think that the DLC is priced a little high.
Well, and the DLC is going to be getting you both the part 1 and the part 2. So you are essentially getting 6 new game modes and 6 new costumes for this price.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know what the game modes are, so I don't know what if it's substantial or anything.
Yeah, I am kind of curious as to what they could add as far as a game mode is concerned, because I felt that with what the game had to offer, that all of the versatility was already there as far as like the different ways to play the game in a multiplayer setting. So I'm interested to see where they take that innovation.
I'm surprised that they didn't add new characters. Like give me Waluigi, give me Daisy.
Well, we've been barking up that tree for a year now.
I know.
We'll get more into that later.
And it's bone dry. So let's move on to our year in review. So Galen and I did the terrible thing of listening back to our old episodes.
It was rough.
I think that probably our first 40 episodes are absolute shite.
We had some good moments.
Or at least all the episodes with you in them.
Yeah.
We specifically listened back to our predictions video. What? What do we do? What do we do? This is a podcast. This is a listen.
Listens. This is a podcast.
Episodes. And we talked about...
There's that 40 episodes showing.
Shut up. Oh, I hate you. We talked about so many of the big releases that came out this year. It is so interesting to listen back that not that long ago, just a year ago, less than, and think about what little we knew compared to what we know now and like what happened this year. So much happened this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to look back at a curated amount of things. If you want to go back and listen to episodes 10 and 11 specifically, those were our predictions videos. Mm-hmm. They're awful, but it is fun to go back to a time capsule.
Yeah, I will say there were definitely more predictions in episode 11 compared to episode 10.
So we're going to kick it off, segueing right into it, Luigi's Mansion 3.
Yeah.
So initially when we did our predictions video, we knew next to nothing. We just had that one very, very brief trailer. Mm-hmm. Galen, you were very excited about this game. I was somewhat excited, but a little bit cautious.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. I know that we had talked a lot about the format of the gameplay and if they were going to stick with like going through a single mansion like in the first game, or if they were going to break it down into chapters like we were seeing on the 3DS. Both the second one and the remake. And
we both sort of went with like the first game in terms of game design.
Yes.
And we were right. We're so right. We're good.
Mm-hmm. I'm very glad that they went back to a more exploratory form of the game.
Yeah.
I really think that them breaking it down into chapters was really just in response to the limitations of the 3DS hardware. I mean, you can only load up so much of the level and so much of the game at the same time. And other than
I disagree. It is not. I don't think it's a hardware limitation. I think it's a game design consciously chosen based on the nature of it being a dedicated handheld that
Possibly.
is like slow bursts of play. Look at all of the huge games that are on the 3DS that aren't held back by that, you know?
True, but I would also argue that it probably helped them come to that conclusion. Like, I could understand sitting there being like, how do we make this a more bite-sized experience? But also the decision of, hey, you know, if we go this route, it's going to be a lot easier to load up the levels. That being said, I am very glad they went to the mansion exploratory format. They also did it very seamlessly. Like, other than a couple of using the elevator to get between levels, there wasn't really anything in the terms of like loading that I felt while going throughout the game or exploring around.
Yeah. The elevator was a little bit long, but other than that...
Yeah.
I did accurately predict the partner mechanic, though. I'm wagging my finger at the world.
I will argue that partner mechanic is not nearly what we were talking about, though. And
yes, it was. What?
I don't consider Luigi a partner mechanic.
He is totally You played the whole game with your wife.
I played the whole game with my wife because they gave me that as an option. However, I honestly believe...
Yeah, but it's still a partner mechanic.
It's a partner mechanic, but as I stated before, I felt a distinct difference in how the game was played once we added that partner to the game.
What are you talking about? You got sexually transmitted crazy mouth right now.
You have sexually transmitted lazy mouth right now.
Good joke. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Take that. That's our show.
No, I specifically said that there would be a partner mechanic, and then I talked about like, oh, it'd be really cool if it were Daisy and that kind of thing, and then I even mentioned it being like an optional thing.
You were also specifically stating that you wanted something more than just Gooigi, and you called out Gooigi being as a little bit of a lame idea.
I said Gooigi in terms of character, not in terms of game design.
I honestly believe...
What is this?
I honestly believe that this is a prelude to what they want to do in upcoming Luigi Mansion titles.
Oh, whatever.
Like, I'm not ready to rule out our idea for a partner mechanic in future titles of it. And I think this is their idea of saying, how will the game play if somebody else is playing along with it in a campaign setting?
Yeah, we had ideas like 2 or 3 episodes ago for like Luigi's Mansion 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah. However, the fact that bringing that partner into the game is linked to a tool utility item.
So what? That's just the in-game explanation of it.
Yeah, but Gooigi itself is a utility item. You can either go through the entire game with Gooigi at your side, or you can only use him to get past certain areas in the game.
So it's not a partner mechanic.
I don't believe it's a partner mechanic.
What is a partner mechanic then, Galen? You are outrageous. You're outraging me right now.
Okay, let me put it this way. Let's compare this to another game, Tales of Symphonia. You could say that Tales of Symphonia is a partner game because they can fight with you in combat. I don't think that's the case.
That is a bad comparison.
I think it is an accurate comparison
No,
to the
because
situation.
Luigi can go around the environment with you and interact with the environment just like Luigi can, except for a couple of different things.
How so? Luigi will not be able to go off of the screen that Luigi is in.
But he has a vacuum.
Okay.
That's the main thing, is doing the vacuum.
Yes, he can vacuum, he can help you in combat, but he cannot interact with anything other than keys that you would get from either an area that you can only get access to with Gooigi.
Can he fight ghosts?
He can fight ghosts, but again,
Can
he
he
could also
affect
fight
the environment with his sucker? Vacuum. I just said the word. Why'd I forget it?
Not to the same degree that Luigi can.
Okay, explain that.
There are elements in the game that Gooigi cannot interact with when it comes to selecting an item, picking up an item, things like that, that Luigi has to do. There is no autonomy to what Gooigi can do.
But
Luigi
it's still a
is
partner
Link's-
mechanic. Like, it makes sense because this was a single-player game, but they have to push in the partner mechanic somehow. This is exactly how I was envisioning it in my head. Like, do you want it to be a full-on two-player thing? But, like, how can you make it where, like, okay, so if everybody has the exact same ability as Luigi, what if one person wants to go to the next room and the other person doesn't? You know?
When you were talking about a partner mechanic, I was thinking more of something along the lines of Resident Evil 0.
Well, that's a hyper-specific example of something that hasn't really been done in a game before or after, even.
Yeah, and I would love to see that, especially in a game like this. And the elements of this game does have it. When you are going through Scare Scraper, you have that autonomy of being able to go into separate rooms away from your character.
That'd be cool if that happened. Because remember, we mentioned in some episode, we were like, it would be cool if they did Resident Evil 0, but correctly.
Yes.
Because Resident Evil 0 didn't stick the landing all the time. Just a couple of times, but...
Honestly, I feel like there is more that can be put into it.
Sure.
To distinguish it as a partner mechanic. I think right now, it's a fun idea, and it gives you the ability to have somebody play the game with you, but I would not consider that a partner mechanic.
I feel like you're getting hung up on your own personal definition of partner mechanic.
Also, can I point one thing out? Gooigi is immortal.
Sure. Like, that's so Nintendo of them. You know what I mean? Here, your little brother can play. Here, your little cousin can play. Something like that, right?
Yes.
I accurately predicted this. And Galen wants to fight me.
I am glad they added a mechanic that allowed somebody to play with you in it. I would not consider it a partner mechanic.
Brilliant. Agree to disagree. Also,
I'm fine with it.
Stupid.
I think Oni is way too uptight on this.
How ironic. Wait, no. What's the word not ironic? Hypocritical.
Don't you think? A little too ironic.
All right, this is getting to be a little bit too much like rain on my wedding day, so we're going to move on to our predictions about Pokemon.
Do we have to talk about Pokemon?
We're actually only going to talk about it very briefly because when we made
That's
predictions,
true.
we knew nothing about it. There was no visuals. There was no talk of Pokemon 2019, Sword and Shield. We didn't even have a title for it.
Controversy aside, I do believe that this new Pokemon game held a lot of potential. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, so we had a lot of ideas that we were like, oh, well, it'd be cool if they did this, be cool if they did that. And I kind of said, the same stuff that I have been saying throughout the year, so I'm not going to repeat it much, but just like a lot of exploration. I wanted more focus on that. I wanted something exciting, something that felt like a new hardware entry of Pokemon.
Yeah.
And we, depending on your interpretation of the new Sword and Shield, we got that. I feel like we got that in a baby step. They went the right direction, but they took a baby step when they could have taken, 2 full steps.
Agreed. And specifically, I remember when we were talking about it beforehand, you had said that you would love a more of an over-the-shoulder form of exploration as opposed to, or akin to something like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I threw out the example of it would be interesting if they used the Breath of the Wild engine and then they had more of a over-the-shoulder.
Yeah, and in a way, we did kind of get that as far as a control scheme, which I do think is definitely an innovative step for the series. I think what you were kind of wanting was seeing those Pokemon interacting in their natural environment as opposed to, hey, here's giant Pokemon that are floating around that you can walk into battles with.
Yeah. Like they went in the correct direction, but not far enough at all for me.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to see you can listen back to the episode. I mentioned something about I used Monster Hunter and Xenoblade Cross as examples, where you would see creatures drinking out of the lake, or burrowing underneath this or that, or playing with their friends or whatever. I wanted to see the Pokemon do that because the Pokemon are the highlight of this series. You want to see them being their Pokemon selves, and you get a little bit of that in the what is it, like the camp or something like that feature that this game has.
Yeah.
You see them interacting with each other and acting like kind of dumb. Like, that's what I would like to see in the wild and expanded upon. So maybe in the future we'll see something like that, but it's just kind of disappointing for me in retrospect.
I am definitely feeling like this game was a little bit rushed when it came to...
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if they had, like... Because we were even doubting if the game would come out this year.
Yeah, that was interesting to hear.
I'm wondering if they had given themselves another year, if they announced it as like a summer release next year or something, if that added time would have given them a chance to improve on the game to the expectations we had back at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, honestly, I think that if they had chosen a different engine, if they had hired on a bunch of temporary contractors for 3D modeling to get all of the modeling up to snuff, and kind of gone the same direction, even reduce the national dex like they thought, because I think that that's an interesting way to control the way that the game plays and the way that the balancing is. I don't know, if they had made so many different decisions, I mean, it would have been a totally different game. But yeah, also being like, this is a 2020 game, not a 2019 game, that would have been, I think, for this game's benefit. But yeah, I don't know. It still came out, it still sold. I think it was the second best selling Pokemon game in the entire series, and it was the number one grossing, because of the higher price tag, Pokemon game in the series. So it still did really well. But in terms of the fandom and how people appreciated it and their reaction to it, it was definitely mixed to positive. But whatever. It was interesting, though, to hear, because we were talking about, like, okay, what new could they do? And you had a great question. You were talking about, like, okay, battle system-wise, like, they've done some really big things and they changed stuff up before. What new could they do? And I mentioned, what if they did timed hits? That would be so cool.
Actually, it's funny because when I was re-listening to this episode and I was hearing us starting to get into this conversation, my brain actually went to timed hits before you even said it.
Oh, so I'm a genius.
It was very inspiring.
I'm so inspiring.
You're such something.
Because you started to go from there. You were like, what if it was a grid system like Mega Man Battle Network? Because every video game for you needs to be just
game
Metal
has
Man.
to be like that.
Metal Man. God.
Battle Man.
And I was like, that would be cool if the new Battle Man would come out and it would be just like a side story as opposed to the main Battle Man series. I mean, Pokemon.
They're never gonna make another Battle Man Mega Network game.
I don't know. They just trademarked it. Capcom just trademarked a ton of different Capcom properties, and none of them were Breath of Fire. Super upsetting. Anyway, you thought about that stuff, and I was like, that'd be a really cool side kind of thing. But, like, thinking about what they might realistically do, I thought about, well, what if they had in the dual battles, where there's 2 Pokemon or more on the battlefield, if they had a front and back mechanic to it, kind of taking from the old, taking from... Final Fantasy 1, I think, even had that. Final Fantasy 2 definitely did, where there's a front row and there's a back row, and some attacks do more damage in the back or are versatile, or some attacks do more in the front, and, it adds just a little tiny bit of strategy, but it takes from, the tried and true stuff that has never been in Pokemon, but has been in other JRPGs, and it's a little bit of a bummer that we didn't see anything more like that, but I don't know.
I most certainly would not have called Gigamaxing and Dynamaxing in any sense.
Yeah, that was definitely interesting. So good on them for surprising us with that.
Yeah.
Speaking of surprises, we're going to move on to Fire Emblem 3 Houses. This was an interesting one to hear us talk about because I think we only had 1 or 2 trailers.
incredibly apprehensive, and I think cautiously optimistic was the word you used once near the end of it after we had been talking about it for a while.
Yeah, totally. And you were like, I'm definitely going to pick this up.
Funny how things go, huh?
Yeah. What a liar you've made yourself to be.
I mean, I do have to apologize to the fans that I have not been as dedicated to this game. I mean, at least you have the solace of Oni's Daemon Ex Machina's feedback to, fall back on.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Look
We're
forward
busy
to
people,
that
damn it.
in episode 79. When I finally get around to playing Daemon Ex Machina. Oh, Nintendo had that. They had that thing that came out. Did you hear about it? You go to this website. I don't think it works for every region of Nintendo account, but it works for a lot of them, including Japan and the North American ones. But you go to it and you can see your stats for this year of what games you played the most. How many hours you played per what is it called? Month?
Yeah.
And September was my lowest played month. Because I was so busy with
everything
work.
Came out.
And that's when every freaking video game came out ever. And that just goes to show you what a travesty that was. What a damn shame that was. I think I played maybe 20 hours max that entire month. That includes a plane trip.
Yeah. Seriously though, Fire Emblem, Daemon Ex Machina, and oh god, what's the other one? Astral Chains all came out in the same time frame, the same month.
Yes, as Tom pointed out 2 episodes ago, it came out August 30th, semantics, Tom. And then you keep calling it Astral Chains, Galen. What is going on? Why this Midwestern part of you to pluralize everything?
You know what?
Yes, I do.
Some things can't be broken.
And then also Dragon Quest XI-S came out.
Oh yeah, that one came out too.
That also came out in September, and probably a million other things. Who even knows? Who even knows?
Best game in the world, Untitled Goose Game came out during that time.
Jesus.
My game of the year.
Well, but we'll fight about that next week, clearly.
Hey,
anyway,
bring it on. Press Y to get an award.
You should just redo that whole sentence.
Huh?
Are you not going to? Am I going to leave it in like that? I gave you a chance to redeem yourself.
You know what? Go ahead and leave it in.
Yeah. Anyway, Fire Emblem Three Houses. I was cautiously optimistic. Galen said he'd buy it. That totally flipped. Galen didn't buy it. He did rent it, though, which, a little golf clap over there.
I rented it a couple of times, and I was very happy with what I played, but I realized that it required more of a time commitment than I was willing to give it at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. That game is, enormous.
Right.
There's 3, there's 4 campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I clearly loved the hell out of this game. We were specifically talking about the town visiting mechanic that they were showing off in a couple of the trailers. And yeah. I was excited about that. I didn't know how much of a game changer that was going to be. There's so much to do in the town in such a dense amount of areas.
Well, and I remember I was very hesitant about that idea because I was very worried it was going to be like the previous games where it was just more of a place setting and a place for you to be able to go from shop to shop. And
it wasn't even like that in the previous games, though. It was just like a visual thing. You could go down to that level, the main level, and then look at your town that you had put together, and that was it. That was it.
But there was so much more to it in this game.
Oh, absolutely. It was a living, breathing academy.
Yeah. Monastery turned academy, so you're both right?
It's a monastery and academy. It's very integral to the story. I can't wait to talk about that game when I finally beat it in 2024.
It's a mod academy.
It's very interesting, too. Garreg Mach is a mixture of Irish and Scottish. And that's the name of the monastery. The monastery is very Irish as well, with its heavy Christian influence. It's so interesting.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So glad that game turned into a huge success.
Yeah. One thing that I did want to point out was that near the beginning of it, we were kind of talking about what we were expecting as far as almost like a flow of how the game was going to be promoted. And you did say that we were probably going to be getting a Nintendo Direct for this. And yeah, sure enough, we did. So good call on that one. I hope your back doesn't hurt too much after that.
No, that was just my audience clapping for me right now.
The single clap? Okay.
It wasn't a single clap. Listen back to it. It was several different claps. And also, I didn't layer one clapping sound on top of each other several different times, so that way it sounds like an audience. Ass.
It's all just booty. It's all booty claps.
Ass. Oh. Yeah, well, that's just me. Okay, it was just one person, and that's just me. So clearly. Yeah, never mind. Actually, good. Less editing for me. That was just my self-congratulatory booty claps.
Congratulatory booty claps.
Moving on, we talked also about some ports from the Wii U.
Yes.
And some other little tiny games that we were interested in. Galen, we both successfully called out 2 different things. Good job.
Absolutely.
Score 1, Galen.
Yeah.
You said that there needs to be a Super Mario Maker port on the Switch. And I said, not to one-up you, but I was correct when I said that they would do a soft sequel, not a port.
No, we got a hard sequel.
We did get a hard sequel. Especially with this Luigi. Link. Just another L word. Link update that recently came out.
Yeah. No, this game is... I think this really kind of surprised everybody with how much just full-on content was in this game.
And how quickly they announced and released the game. Like, clearly at the beginning of the year, we didn't even know about it, and then it came out in summer.
Because there was like a, 2-3 month turnaround between when we first started hearing about this game and when it actually came out?
Probably. I don't know. What do I talk about news on a podcast weekly?
You are known for your preparation.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of like shooting in the dark when it came to suggesting this one, but I'm really happy that it came through.
Yeah.
Speaking of shots in the dark, you calling out Tokyo Mirage Sessions, like, I did not see that coming.
I believed it. I believed it in my soul. I believed it deep inside of my performa, and it happened. I'm so glad that it happened, and it's coming out super soon.
Somewhere out there's a monkey paw with 1 digit less.
That's fine. That's so fine. That's 4 more where I get to ask for sequels to Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Sure. It is worth mentioning, though, that there was that little bit of controversy that came out along with this, too. When you were originally suggesting this, did you have a preferred preference on which version of the game you would have liked to had seen remade?
That whole thing? Well, okay, Hold on. No, we talked about this. There is no, like, separate version thing. There is some censorship in the Western versions on the Wii U and not the Japanese version. Then the Switch version is using one version, and that was the Western version, as the universal version. And the only thing that was censored is chapter 3 or 4 or something like that, where the bikinis were changed to streetwear, and then the dialogue that goes along with it to make it make sense. And then there were a couple of character models that were changed mostly for the worse, where they covered up some skin, like whether it was cleavage or whether it was this or that. Some of it completely neutral changes or whatever. And that's what the changes are. It doesn't change the story by any means. It doesn't change the enjoyment by any means. It is still censorship. Yes. We'll probably end up talking about it a little bit later when the game comes out. It is unfortunate for sure. But when I was mentioning this way last year or earlier in this year, I didn't think about it for a second because, my God, is it so unimportant to how good this game is. Nothing? You just wanted to wind me up, that's it?
Yeah, just a little bit.
God. I thought you had something to say. Anyway, so we were both right about that. So look forward to a couple of episodes from now in the beginning of January when we mention our predictions for 2020, because apparently we make it happen.
Apparently. I will say I did not get my wish of a Wonderful 101 remake or re-release, but I'm still holding out hope.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of packed away my Wii U, and I kind of want to play that game. Don't want to take it out of the box.
Now, I also want to mention, Galen, when we were discussing a whole slew of Final Fantasy games coming over to the Nintendo Switch, you said that you were so excited because you can finally beat Final Fantasy VII, and you can't wait to play Final Fantasy IX.
Yes, I did.
So, considering you've purchased both of these games and played them to completion...
Oh, totally. Ask me anything. I will answer them for you.
With my human mouth!
Dun 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 dun.
What is this? Stop it. I hate it. What are you doing?
Dun dun dun.
Cutting this out. What is this?
It was the card game theme from Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh my god.
What?
That's
so
specific. So specific.
I played a lot of the card game, okay?
And you played none of Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy IX.
Hey, listen, I will go ahead and admit to not getting those games if you admit that you were completely wrong when you said that a re-release of Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 was never going to happen.
Okay, first off, I said Resident Evil 6 only was the one that was never going to happen. And second off, it is to everybody's detriment that game got re-released again.
Everybody.
So we all suffer in this embarrassing nightmare.
Yeah.
Can't win them all.
Can we talk about how much of a cluster that decision was to re-release those games at those prices? Like, even looking at it in hindsight, it was a terrible decision.
On PS4 recently, the Resident Evil 4 went on sale for $8. On the Nintendo Switch, it went on sale for $20 because it's normally $30.
Why?
Like, I think that the PS4 versions of those games when they first came out were $20 too.
I think so.
So
yeah.
Why not? I understand it's a re-release, it's new on this console. I expect it to be more than $8. I do. But why release it for higher than what you originally released a couple games for a couple of years ago? It makes no sense. And that's why I'm like, I'm not going to buy this game on Switch until it goes down, quite a bit. Because they've proved to me that they will reduce it, but it's going to take time. And it's just like, ugh.
They just got to make that Re3Re money.
Stop trying to make Re3Re happen.
I'm going to make it happen.
No one will make it happen. You're going to be the only one on Twitter using that hashtag.
Listen, I have like 4 months. What does it came out? April? Yeah, okay. So 4 months to make this happen.
No.
Hashtag Re3Re, everybody.
No one's doing it. Now, another thing I have to call you out for, though, is your insistence about Metroid Prime 4.
I have been a little obsessive about this game. I really wanted this to be the surprise that just got to everybody.
Oh yeah, me too, but it didn't let me cloud my... Wait a second, I said the words wrong. I didn't let it cloud my judgment. Boy, that would have been a better stinger if I hadn't screwed up all the words.
Yeah, I still... Even looking back and listening to this, I was just thinking about, like, a month later, they, like, basically held off everything. Like, literally, it was 3 episodes after that prediction went out.
Wow. Yeah, they're like, please understand, we have set fire to the office that is making Metroid Prime 4. We have killed everybody.
We just want you to bear.
Oh, I love her. She's so cute.
Aww.
The last thing that they heard was this fire sparks joy. Yeah, anyway, they started doing Metroid Prime 4 all over again. Yep, we'll see that game in 2021 at the earliest.
Oh yeah, we're probably not going to see anything on this anytime soon.
Prove me wrong, though, Nintendo. Prove me wrong.
Other ones that we were also really excited for, I'm just doing a passing mention for.
Sure.
Bayonetta 3 we talked about.
Yeah.
And yeah, that we've heard literally nothing about that game.
Yeah, not a damn thing. And I think we both said, yeah, we're not going to hear anything about this game for a while.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, knowing now that they had Astral Chain that they were working on.
You had to stop yourself
I did.
from making it a plural.
Yep. I really tried hard there.
No, but good job. I'm going to congratulate you because that means that my forced embarrassment of you has made you so anxious and self-conscious that you have self-corrected yourself. You now understand what my childhood was. My entire childhood.
It's almost like there's some sort of connection between that and the fact that I started to go to therapy this year.
Oh, good. Good for you. Everybody should go to therapy.
Yeah, no joke. Everybody should go to therapy.
That's good.
It does wonders for people.
Yes.
Back on topic, though. We also mentioned Animal Crossing, which
Yeah.
I was pretty confident we were going to see this around this time.
Yeah.
I can understand why they delayed it, though, and I'm not too upset about that either. My wife is. I'm not.
I honestly think that time of year, also late March, I think it is, 320, right?
Yeah.
Is appropriate for the setting of the game, too. You know, everybody
absolutely.
is they're either neck deep in winter, depending on where they are in the world, or they're either coming out of winter.
And they're covered in all of the rain and the slush.
Also, very sorry to our people in the southern hemisphere because that is not what weather you're getting. But
yep.
You then are like just craving, some summer or some sunlight or whatever it is. So I think that will be successful in the northern hemisphere markets for that reason.
Absolutely.
Or maybe it means absolutely nothing at all. And then you just listen to this podcast to hear me say words that don't make sense.
I'm pretty sure that's why you listen to this podcast.
Oh God, I'm so sorry. And then lastly, we also talked about hardware revisions in the beginning of the year. This was interesting because there was a article from the Wall Street Journal Japan that mentioned something happening in factories where there would be a hardware revision for the Nintendo Switch. So we talked about it a little bit.
Throughout the year, this was also a really interesting ride, just seeing like all of the different speculations. There were, I think, 2 different versions that they were working on at one point, or were rumored that were working on.
Rumored, yeah. And then there was somebody who did Google Translate on a website. And
yep.
Do you remember that? They did Google Translate, and then the translation, of course, was awful. And it said that they were, like, the translated version said that they were having trouble with the Pro version. And that's not what those words said at all, but that's what Google Translate spit out. And then everybody ran with it. And then we reported on it accurately, not to, pat ourselves on the back. But I'm so shocked by how many people will seriously plug something into Google Translate and report on that. That's crazy.
Hire translators.
Hire me. Like, I will charge you not very much just to proofread something like that. Like, it was a short article. I translated it and did it on our website. Anyway, beyond the point. Hardware revisions.
Yeah.
What did we talk about?
And this one, we were really just talking about more on, like, increasing the hardware specs, like higher definition screens. I know that I made a lot of references to other practices that Sony did with their PlayStation Vita, how they improved their screen and they changed their screen over time, and if we were going to be seeing similar things here. I honestly would not have guessed that they would have removed the ability to dock the system.
Yeah. I also feel the same, just because it's called the Nintendo Switch, and
exactly,
that the
right?
entire thing is that it docks. Like, that, seriously, it still surprises me that why does it not dock? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, Galen, it was very interesting because, like, what we were saying, we mentioned so many different things, and there were little bits and pieces that both of us mentioned that were totally right. You mentioned that you could see in a hardware revision them doing something which increases the processing speed. And
oh yeah,
that is what we got with the Tegra X1 being removed from the system, and now it's the Tegra, I think it's called the X Mariko is what it's really called, something like that. And it's basically just like a more efficient version of the X1. We're not seeing thus far improvements in performance, but we are seeing the improvements in use of electricity,
power consumption and power efficiency.
Right.
And,
the efficiency has gone way through the roof, and the Switch Lite benefits from that, but the new Switch version, which we'll get to in a second, super benefits from that. So that was super interesting that you mentioned that about processing speed, because the processing speed does perform better.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also mentioned with like the Vita, them having like a new version for the Vita, but they didn't like announce it as a new version. It's just that they kind of phased out whatever, lower quality screen was, and then just this became the new standard. And it wasn't like promoted as the new thing. It was just like, oh, this is just the standard. And we had seen that exact thing happen with the 3DS. We mentioned it then. And this time with the Switch, we saw kind of the same thing happen with the regular Switch. It got that Tegra Mariko in there instead of the X1, and then that super boosted the battery because of the efficiency. So it's so interesting that little bits and pieces of what we said were actually correct. So we were thinking in the right direction.
Educated guesses is all I'm going to give that credit to.
I did mention, though, very briefly, not the existence, but like the potentiality of a Switch Mini that has attached controllers that don't remove coming out this year. I called that.
Yeah.
And it was a passing comment, and I called it.
I definitely remember, I don't think I did it in these episodes, but I definitely went a little bit more tinfoil hat with my predictions.
As you do.
As I do.
You do.
It's kind of fun to do that and think about the potential of what we could do. I don't know why, but I'm still kind of holding on to the fact that they might come out with a mobile version of the system that works off of data networks. Like, it probably won't be as popular in the States as it will be in more network-heavy worldwide areas.
Yeah, I see that, like, in the next generation, not this generation.
Yeah.
I feel like Nintendo is watching what's happening with things like that and with streaming, and then they're going to join the party late like they usually do, but when the infrastructure is a little more stable.
Yeah. Only time will tell. That is definitely the lesson that I've learned from this episode. That and booty claps. Oh, that's so wrong. That's so wrong.
Well, now that you know what it is.
It's got a completely different context now.
Well, you did it to yourself. So let's move on to additional DLC. We're going to recommend some stuff for you. It's probably YouTube.
Yep.
I am recommending the brand new video by Stop Skeletons from Fighting, one of my favorite shows on the Tubes of You. High production value. They've been working on this video forever. This is about the Xbox 360's Kinect. This was such an interesting time during the 8th generation of consoles because the Wii was an enormous success that nobody expected, and then watching how the 360 was also a success in a traditional sense, try and, catch some of that market that Nintendo uncovered was fascinating. Stop Skeletons from Fighting in this video do a great job of breaking down what happened and why it happened and where it went from there. Check it out. It's like almost a half an hour long. It's super in-depth. It's super entertaining. Derek on screen is always entertaining. You won't regret it. You don't want to miss it. Galen, what are you recommending?
This week, I actually have an interview with the head of YouTube, the CEO, Susan, I'm going to say her last name wrong, Wojcicki. I apologize if that's incorrect. But no, this is actually done at a gamers summit they held a little bit earlier this year, where they specifically were addressing with YouTube gaming creators or content creators and kind of just wanting to show their support for the industry. And this particular interview asked some really kind of difficult questions that it was interesting to hear their perspective on. Things of why are gaming content creators basically being treated like second-class citizens on the platform, being segregated into a YouTube gaming channel. Why do some of their things like makeup artists get so much high praise and invitations to like the Met when you get nothing like that from any of these? It's just like, where is kind of the respect going? And it also goes into some upcoming issues like Copa and the adpocalypse that happened last year. So if you're interested in kind of the inner workings of YouTube's stance on everything, it's interesting to hear their PR spin on it. I'll definitely say take it with a grain of salt on what they're saying, because they're trying to save face, but it's an interesting interview nonetheless.
Okay, now let's move on to our listener mail. You know, in December, people are sending letters all the time. It's such a pain in the butt. You gotta go to the store, you gotta buy a card, you have to pick up that card, which is so heavy, you know what I mean? Like, the heaviest you've ever felt. And then you gotta write a whole bunch of words in them with like a pen, like, and you get ink on your what is this part of your wrist called? It sucks.
Where are you going with this?
Shut up. And then you write all those words in that card, and then it's dumb. Like, the shit in those cards is dumb. And then you gotta put a stamp on it or whatever you gotta do. Send it in the mail. It is so much work, but you know what isn't a lot of work? Sending an email via the intranet to nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com. So easy, so simple, so lovely.
You can send your emails and help, apparently, the degradation of the written word by sending your emails to nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
And if you were a degenerate, you might sound something like this. I was trying to go with what you said, but then I insulted some of our listener base. I didn't mean to do that.
And this is what we call collateral damage.
And I love our listeners, especially this one. It's from Chris.
Chris, you deserve better.
He's got some story time. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, hi Chris, how you doing today?
I'm so glad to hear from you. I love his stories and his quippy little remarks. Sometimes he sends me messages on Twitter, and it's like a little nudge or a little jab or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, all right.
So, Chris writes in, I was a baker, Kekia-san. Not planned, but it's what I did. And was on a team in 1985 that was tasked to make a huge Marine Corps birthday cakes. When they said to us that we were going to fly the cakes around by CH-46 helicopter, who wants to go? I raised my hand, then looked around, and it was just me with my hand up. Delivery day comes, and I get on with these huge cakes, 3 feet high, 4 feet long, on huge wooden platforms. They are all covered in a heavy plastic. We make a couple of runs to Okinawa, and I notice that red fluid is dripping onto the plastic. So the next time we land, we offload the cakes, and I say to the flight chief, hey, something's dripping. It looks red. It looks like hydraulic fluid. He says, yeah, if it stops, let me know. We'll be in trouble. I was 19 and a PFC. He was a sergeant or corporal, so probably 22, 23. And 2 pilots were probably 26-ish. He takes me out of the chopper.
Oh, come on, you gotta do a better voice than that.
He takes me out of the chopper.
All right.
And points to the rear fuselage and says, see these round pieces of metal all over? Do you know what those are? Nope, I say. Those are bullet patches from Vietnam. This point being that the CH-46 was older than everyone flying in it, and maybe the same age.
That is mortifying.
That is crazy.
That is terrifying. Is that why? Did everybody know that, and that's why they didn't raise their hand to deliver cakes in a helicopter?
I'd do it. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm sure that those cakes were so very appreciated too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I love this little story time. Thank you very much for writing in, Chris.
Thanks for writing in, Chris. This was really cool.
Yeah.
You don't hear about stuff like this every day.
Absolutely. And like especially hearing stories that I have never done anything anywhere close to something like this, you know? So cool to hear. So cool to share this kind of stuff. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But also in my brain, I'm just constantly thinking of like Contra and like oh god, what was the other game? Metal Slug.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking of the entire time reading this.
That, however, is not the only email we got this week. So we have one more email from our good friend Max.
Hey Max.
Max writes in, "Hello, podlings. At last, it is upon us.
Oh my god.
The Old Blood update for Warframe is in certification."
Oh.
Well, while I'm excited for Grendel, the Orson Welles unicorn frame,
Yes.
and the Vaska Kavat, a vampire cat companion,
Yes.
and the Kuva Liches, new foes promising some very interesting fights and gear. Hey, Switchmon is here, so let's talk about that.
Pika.
Though I still can't help but miss Venusaur, Blastoise, Ampharos, Dragonite, Salamence, and many more, I've had a fantastic time with Sword in my first nearly 6 hours.
Ah, you went Sword, did you?
Yeah. I actually, side note, I have a friend of mine who actually went Sword as well, so...
I wonder if that says something about you, like your astrological sign.
Maybe. I still don't know what the main differences are between the two, like, for the little specifics in it.
Oh, yeah. It's the Pokemon are, some of those Pokemon are different, and then the gym leaders are different.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Max writes in, "It generally looks really good, even if it also has a weird texture dissolving when you get too close to objects that looks like something from the 3DS. And the animations for humans and Pokemon both can be a little stilted. Still, Sword and Shield are proving to be just as fun as Moon Ultramoon were in my return to the series from Ruby, while being a decent amount more streamlined than Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. Also, I especially appreciate that in the very, very beginning that you can catch Pokemon without actually having to whittle down their health. They're too cute not to go pacifist."
I also super love that.
I really like that too. Let's all be friends.
Yeah, the professor is like, "Oh, you're a new Pokemon master. Here, beat this rat with a mallet until it can't move anymore, then enrapture it. And capture it."
If you're enrapturing it, it's a completely different game with a different rating. Finally, I haven't yet caught any Gigantamax Pokemon per se, but I did catch a Dynamaxing Choodle, so I presume that can Gigantamax when it evolves. I also managed to find a Dynamax Frillish. I'm not sure I know what Frillish is. Caught a Dynamax Frillish, which was curious, and a Dynamax Axil, a Dragon-type Pokemon within my first couple of hours. It almost makes me up for deleting Dragonite and Salamence. Almost. And with that said, happy hunting, Max. P.S. or postscript. I was leaning towards just getting Sword, but that felt banner that GameStop was offering won me over for a dual pack. So now, this is the first generation where I bought both editions.
Oh.
And, woo boy, that banner is so nice. It looks almost like a lenticular? Lenticular. I have not heard that word. That's interesting. It looks almost like a lenticular hologram, though. And that could be the ink smudging, maybe? Still, It really ties the room together.
A wonderful mistake.
Oh, and not to spoil it, but that first excursion into the slumbering wife, is it Weald?
I assume he wrote Weald. Max, he vets his emails very carefully with very tact usage of emoji. So I believe that Max would not make an error. So it must be Slumbering Weald.
Slumbering Weald was quite a fair bit spooky. That soundtrack with a certain Pokemon's cry was pretty frightening at the 2 or 3 in the morning on launch night.
Thank you, Max. Thank you for writing in.
Thanks. Yeah, and I'm really happy to hear that there is some like good feedback coming back from this game.
Yeah, because I don't want to be negative about this game at all, or all the time.
Yeah.
Also, thank you, Max. You write such like detailed and lovely little emails. You can tell that he is a character of refinement. He is a refined character.
Max, I have a question for you. Have you ever considered going Nuzlocke with your playthrough?
Oh, Jesus.
What? Nuzlocks are kind of fun.
Yeah, but also it's like terrifying. Like I can't imagine if my Pokemon actually dies. Like, oh, it's so final.
As is life.
Jesus. I thought I was the dark one. I don't know. I think that would be too scarring for me to continue.
I would definitely do it.
Why haven't you done it yet then, huh?
I have done it.
I don't believe you.
Well, bring it. Literally, bring your Pokemon. We'll play together. It'll be fun.
No, it's expensive. Don't worry, Max, though. I am sure that Venusaur, Blastoise, I don't know about Ampharos, though, are going to be added. Oh, and Dragonite. Yeah, Dragonite I think is supposed to be added. I have seen that weird texture dissolving thing that he's talking about. It's an interesting rendering trick. I just feel like that engine that they're using is not particularly great.
Yeah.
Because it uses that texture dissolving a lot on like trees and stuff. I don't know. I'm not a programmer. I can only suggest things.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's something that could be like adjusted in a patch, or if it's just like this is the only way to make the game work on the hardware that they have.
I think that's what it is. That's what I would speculate. But I think that's because of the engine. But I mean, clearly we've had, more complex games and more beautiful games on the Switch. So
that's true.
That's why I think like, well, maybe move on to a different engine. But it is so nice to hear some positivity coming out of this game.
Absolutely.
And I looked up Frillish. Frillish is adorable. It's a water ghost. It looks like a jellyfish ghost kind of thing, but it's got a cute little face. And there's blue ones and pink ones.
Cute.
Looks like an onion head with like a jellyfish body.
I wonder if when it Dynamaxes, if it retains its cuteness.
It's probably just as like dumb cute. Like this is a Gigantamax, but have you seen the Pikachu?
Yeah, I've seen the Pikachu one.
It's like, especially its voice too. Its voice is great.
Pika.
Yeah, but it doesn't even say its full name though. It just goes like, P. That's just all it does. So thank you again, Max, for writing in.
Thank you very much, Max.
If any of you have a story or some poetry or some questions or some advice for us or some criticisms or corrections, whatever it may be, you can write that letter electronically. Stop laughing.
Write that electronic email to nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So what's coming up? What's coming out? We got some coverage on Persona 5 Scramble coming out if it's not out already. We also have some stuff about Fatal Frame. We got stuff about Fairy Tail coming out. This is all stuff that I either translated or I performed an interview on, and then a whole bunch of other good stuff that's going to be coming out. You want to stay constantly, multiple times per day, 24 hours a day you want to be checking nintendoeverything.com because everybody is working their butt off. Brian in particular, constantly posting news articles the moment that they're happening. All your Nintendo news is right there on nintendoeverything.com. You can also stay connected on Twitter @NinEverything. and our YouTube, youtube.com/nineverything. Then you can get the drop on the podcast by visiting me and following me on Twitter @Oni_Dino. I tweet about games that I'm playing that week, and then I'm probably going to end up talking about them on the podcast that coming week. I also have a very strong retweet game. I retweet a lot of good stuff. My own tweets are garbage, but I retweet a lot of very funny people that are so talented, much more talented than I. Then you can check out what I'm wearing, what I'm eating, what I look like. It's horrible. On my Instagram, Oni__Dino. And then you can get more of my voice, more of my mediocre gameplay on my YouTube channel that I do with my husband. It's called Game Married, Gayme Married. We got Shantae, we got Luigi's Mansion, we got a bunch of other stuff coming up. If you have suggestions, you just let me know.
Nice.
Because I don't know, I play whatever. Galen, what about you? Where do you tweet? Is it Twitter?
Well, my tweeting is done on the Twitter @Mobius087. I think I'm going to start posting a couple of choice Bloodstained Ritual of the Night screenshots that I've been collecting.
You should.
Because I'm really enjoying this game a lot.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah. And hey, I'm probably going to be throwing up some holiday-related Instagram stories. And if you want to follow along with that, you can find me at @True_Mobius.
He might get wine drunk with family and then post against his better judgment.
That is most certainly going to happen. We actually found a card game that I'm really excited to play. It's
Imagine that.
It's a truth or dare, except instead of the dare, you take drinks. But it's a party game, so it's like you ask somebody, you can either answer question A or question B truthfully, or you can take a drink.
Okay, it should be sips and not shots.
Yes, most certainly. I've learned from Mario Party last year.
So, friends, thank you very much for joining us. I don't know what happened to my voice. It didn't work. Oh my god, am I getting sick? I might really be getting sick. Anyway, if you are listening to this before Christmas or before any holiday that you celebrate, have a very wonderful and safe time with your friends and your family or whoever the hell, or by yourself or with your pets. Like, whatever you want to do, have a great time. And we're not stopping this year. Like, we have another episode this year, and then we're not even stopping in January. Like, just come back every single week, which clearly you do. If you're at the end of the podcast right now, clearly you're coming back week after week. You're awesome. Yeah. This is when all the weaklings get out of the pool. You know, the babies get out of the pool, and then this is just like Adult Swim right here, and like we're just having a nice time.
Yeah.
All of our lovely people that listen to the very end, you know, just love these people.
Mm-hmm. It's so nice. I'm not even going to think about who peed in the pool.
It was you. It was always you.
I mean, I'm not going to refute that. So.
Gross. Tune in next week where I might have a new host. One who doesn't pee in the pool. Could it be
Either
you?
that or a fresh supply of chlorine.
So stay tuned next week. Next week is going to be our Oni Dino Galen Game Awards.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of fighting, a lot of wine, and a lot of alcohol. Ho!
I am all for all of this.
Did you get it? Wine, like whining, complaining?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got that.
Well, I didn't hear any claps, you know? So we'll see you next week. Until then, for everything Nintendo,
stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Mamma mia. This is a Missy Elliott one-time exclusive. Come on, is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's your primitive, it's why yet number 5. It's your primitive, it's why yet number 5. You got a big, let me search it to find out how hard I gotta work. Yeah, it's your primitive, it's why yet number 5. It's your primitive, it's why yet number 5. I like to get to know ya so I can show ya. Put a hurtin' on ya like I told ya. Give me all your Your girl acting stupid, then call me over. Not on the bed, lay me on your sofa. Call me before you come, I need to shave my chop. You do what you don't know, you will, I won't you? Go downtown and eat it like a vulture. See my hips, big hips, so chill. See my hips and my lips, don't you? Lost a few pounds in my waist, oh yeah. This the kind of beat that go ba-ta-ta. Ba-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Sex me so good, I say blah, blah, blah. Work it, I need a glass of water. Boy, oh boy, it's good to know ya. Is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's your primitive, it's my number. It's your primitive, it's my number. If you got a big, let me search it to find out how hard I gotta work. Yeah, it's your primitive, it's my number. It's your primitive, it's my number. If you're a fly gal, get your nails done, get a pedicure, get your hair done. Oh yeah. Boy, lift it up, let's make a toast. Let's get drunk, this gon' bring us closer. Don't I look like a Holly Berry poster? See the Belvedere playing tricks on ya. Girlfriend wanna be like me, never. You won't find a chick that's even better. I make you hot as Las Vegas weather. Listen up close while I take it back off. Yeah, so happy, listen me with you. I'm not a prostitute, but I can give you what you want. I love your braids and your mouth full of fruits. You love the way my butt boom, 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 boom. Keep your eyes on my boom, 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 boom. You think you can handle this? Ka-dunk, ka-dunk, boom. Take my thumb off and my tail go boom. Cut the lights on so you see what I can do. Is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's your primitive, it's my number. It's your primitive, it's my number. If you got a big, let me search it to find out how hard I gotta work. Yeah, it's your primitive, it's my number.